foundation stone laying ceremony of establishment of Electromagnetic Interference and Compatibility Measurement Laboratory EMI and EMC test facility for testing of strategic electronic systems to cater the military, navy, Air Force, along with commercial and industrial equipment manufacturers, fulfilling the EMI and EMC compliance demands of Western Zone and Pan India. So come, let's take you in conversation with the Director General of SAMEER.
Ask you about the today's event, which is a laboratory, which would be upcoming laboratory, which is seen as a changing phase in the Viksit Bharat journey. So what would you like to say about that?
To be honest, this is not the first facility in the country. We already built a similar facility at SAMEER Chennai, and which is already dedicated to the nation last year. SAMEER Chennai is more advanced in terms of EMI EMC testing. 4 decades back, that the first laboratory in the world, in the country, who started EMI EMC and brought the awareness in the country about what EMI EMC is. And on average, almost 4,000 plus manpower has been trained by us, and they have been across the country working in multiple institutes, both government and private sector. But in Western region, we don't have any full-fledged mill standard facility for which all the equipment which is manufactured for the strategic application can be validated. And especially considering Pune being one of the major hub for the defense manufacturing, we felt that this region, SAMEER Bombay is already, SAMEER Navi Mumbai campus is already into the field of EMI EMC, and as I said, we are the people pioneered, or we are the only people in the country who can test, validate and certify all the trains in terms of the advanced trains, Vande Bharat, then metro trains and the monorails before it gets onto the track. So we have that expertise, and the lab is fully equipped for all those equipment and the testing facilities, and the staff at SAMEER Navi Mumbai campus are highly knowledgeable in terms of all the national and international standards. The proposed facility is unique in nature. It is going to cater to the typical standards which are specifically designated for military equipment. So when indigenization is happening there and equipments are being built in this country, and they need to be validated before being deployed. Though it is deployed in the environment, the standards have been universal. It has to meet many harsh conditions. The way you deploy a commercial system, a civilian system is, you want to deploy a refrigerator is different, you want to deploy a medical equipment, testing equipment is different. At the same time, the same features, same equipment has to be deployed for the military, it goes to the different kind of standards. So keeping that in mind, SAMEER has taken initiative and building the full-fledged end-to-end facility to meet the requirements of the military standards for which equipments are being built and being deployed.
Sir, talking about the strategic part, of course, which as the Secretary Sir also mentioned, that can't be disclosed due to the security reasons, and talking about the civilian part, for laymen to understand, how do you differentiate between the two, how this would be helping?
Right. The facility which has been built, it's called a 10-meter chamber facility. When we say military standards, the test equipment and the test standard and the setup which is created for the military equipment. Suppose a typical standard is, it has to kept on 1 meter height and it distance is going to be in a bunker. So you have to create that kind of environment where this equipment been deployed. But the same facility can be used for civilian standards. The standards are well written there. So it's not that specifically the facility is not created for only for the military. It can be used for civilian application also. But the test setup, and for which the standard is being built, and we configure the test equipment and the setup to meet the military requirements.
Sir, I would like to talk about the Bureau of Indian Standards, how it would be playing a role. Of course, it is a laboratory test, then a certification would be given to go ahead. So how the Bureau of Indian Standard would be playing a role?
Right. Few clarifications I have to mention about it. Bureau of Indian Standards doesn't do certification for the military equipment. First, fundamentally, it is not meant for that. So the standards for which this has to qualify are very stringent specification. They're international standards. Mostly they're international standards. And those standards doesn't come in the purview of BIS. especially for the strategic applications.
And for the civilian part?
Civilian part, yes. Civilian part, yes. Few equipments come under that category. But most of the tests what we do on which the deployment happens, if you take a simple example of a UPS, uninterrupted power supply, I'm not sure there is a specific standard from Bureau of Indian Standards which cater to that. Again, we have to follow a standard. See, there's a difference that is an operational requirement. EMI EMC is operational requirement. You design a system, it has been deployed for a specific purpose. It is intended to work for that purpose. But unfortunately, any electronic equipment, when it is deployed, it starts working on the frequencies and the power levels which are not meant to be operated. So it is beyond, it's not because of the equipment. The way the equipment is designed, it tend to radiate unwanted radiation, what we call as a noise, that in turn affects the systems which are nearby. So we test for those equipments, and Bureau of Indian Standards doesn't come at that kind of a particular standard.
Sir, my next part to you, of course, the staff training. It is a specialized laboratory.
Yes.
So how you would be managing in these areas?
Right. Initially, when we started the EMI EMC facility in this country, in way back in 92, almost every scientist who have been there at SAMEER Chennai have been sent outside the country and they have been trained. And from there is a succession. Then we conducted good number of lectures, workshops, and we had the visitors across the globe visiting us continuously for 2 years. All the labs, equipment, and the training facilities, and the simulation methods, analysis methods, all have been jointly collaborative way people have been trained. And from there, it's a generation to generation been continuing that. And we have the well documented procedures, the test reports, test procedures, and the standards. In addition, we participate mainly on many of the standard meetings. Many of the scientists, senior scientists participate in the standards meetings, and we have the major body, what called IEEE, Institution of Electronic and Electrical Engineers. There is an US body. We regularly publish our papers, technical work, and people present their papers there, interact with international researchers. That way there's always updating happening there. Now we are going one step ahead. We call the experts there to invite all the EMI EMC people there in a particular place and train them, 1.1. Second thing, we are having large number of brainstorms to say that where we go from here. Till now we have been using what has been existing and available. As I mentioned there during the foundation laying ceremony, how can we create India-specific standards for when equipment is made here and deployed here, why not we have a kind of a standard which is exclusively meant for Indian environment. So that another research we are initiating it across. As I said, we have 4 centers on which this area of EMI EMC works. One of the major centers is our Chennai center. Large number of facilities exist. The large pool of manpower works there. Then we have one at Visakhapatnam, and exclusively for the military applications, what we call as IEMI, Intentional Electromagnetic Interference and Electromagnetic Pulse. That's only facility in the country. Nobody else has that kind of a facility. Then we have one at Calcutta, and there is again similar facility, but not of this volume. Leaving Chennai, next facility you can rate wise, if you rate in terms of military standards, the facility what has been proposed is going to be the unique of its kind.
Sir, in talking about India specific standards, so it would be helping our medical sector, when we do exports.
See, this is EMI EMC. The medical sector till now, the deployment scenario is because the human involved, those standards are very, very stringent. We don't have any Indian standard, at least for the equipment what we are making. As I said, we are making linear accelerator for cancer therapy. That has to be approved by them because there is a possibility of radiation coming out of it. So AERB is the governing body which can give the approval before this linear accelerator is deployed there in the hospitals for the treatment. One is the same equipment which is treating the patient can harm the patient or the person who is operating the entire equipment. That's why meeting this AERB standards is very, very stringent. And except AERB in the country, nobody is allowed to do any standardization or approve or give the approvals for deploying that system. So that's a very unique equipment as per the radiation therapy is concerned. As per MRI, what we are building, we are not yet built yet completely, maybe take another 7-8 months time, we'll be able to launch fully homegrown indigenous MRI. But for till now in the country, all the MRIs which are being deployed, the refurbished MRIs or the MRIs which are imported. So they come with already pre-certification. So there was never a mechanism till now to create a certifying a profile even that within the Ministry of Health and Family Affairs. Then we approached them. Now they created separate vertical where they were able to creating a standard, took out an application. They are going to come up with a standards for deployment of MR within India if it's built in India. If it's coming from outside, of course it comes with a predefined certification. If it is being built in India, if it is homegrown technology, then we are coming out with a vertical, maybe mostly adopting the international standards but tailor-made for the Indian scene.
So last words on the completion of this laboratory.
Right. The equipment is already been procured. The test facility and the test equipment, everything is there in place. Only waiting for the chamber to be ready. This is which is civil structure. When the civil structure will be up by 7 to 8 months time, and by, as Secretary Sir mentioned, by November, December, the entire facility will be dedicated to the nation and will start offering the services to the industry.
Any more laboratories to follow after this?
It's an expensive process. I mean, not many will come in numbers unless there is a huge change in the manufacturing industry, because this facility itself costing 40 crores. It's a large investment. As being government facility, we try to help the industry than making business out of it. We don't talk about the business. SAMEER intention is to help the industry to improve their electronic product so that it can be deployable in India and export compliance. So there's a fundamental difference there. If the civilian sector or a business model has to operate, they need to look in terms of the volumes, on the numbers, on the cost. As far as SAMEER is concerned, we being the government body, our approach is to create a facility to make sure that we help the industry to comply for the both national and international standards and enable them to both for Indian deployment and export deployment.
So what capacity the laboratory would be having to handle so many tests at a single time?
No, every test will be done once for one equipment, one time. There cannot be multiple. Same setup should be made many. Generally in the chamber, when I said, why we create these chambers? Chambers are completely shielded for external environment. I am testing an equipment for what it is radiating, so that I am measuring only what has been radiated from that equipment than what has been picked up from other side. Suppose the same equipment kept outside and doing the testing, there is huge amount of electromagnetic environment coming from the base stations, cell phone stations, you have 4G signals, 5G signals, and you have the police communication, the long wave communication, the multiple communications happens there. Basically you have a different kind of a EM environment, electromagnetic environment. So what we are doing inside the chamber is a shielded chamber. No signal comes in, no signal goes out. You create an environment where you are doing the absolute measurement. So that facility will be used once at a time for one setup for one equipment. There can be multiple equipment. You want to validate an equipment for a particular standard, what is the amount of the radiation which is coming there, is within the limits or beyond the limit, done one at a time. Only thing is you can have multiple chambers like that, or you can come in the multiple shifts to increase that depending on the requirement of the industry.